In this English lesson, you are going to improve your listening skills of fast English. I'm going to test you throughout this entire video, so if you can understand me, a native speaker, speaking quickly, using natural pronunciation, and using advanced expressions, phrasal verbs, and idioms, you are definitely fluent in English. But you have to pass this whole test, the entire 1 hour. You have to understand the individual words I'm saying, and you have to understand the meaning of the expressions in order to pass this test. So, let's see if you can pass. Welcome back to Learn English from Professor. I'm Professor. Now let's get started. Here are your instructions for the entire lesson. I am going to say a sentence 3 times. You need to listen to that sentence and write down exactly what you hear in the comments. After, I'll explain what I said, and you can learn the pronunciation changes that take place in fast English. You can also learn the advanced expressions that I use and that native speakers commonly use. So, let's get started with the first listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. We should have had a backup plan. We should have had a backup plan. We should have had a backup plan. I said, we should have had a backup plan. Let's talk about the pronunciation. Notice I said, we should have. Native speakers combine this to sound like we shoulda. Notice that the L is silent. Should have had becomes shoulda had. We shoulda had a backup plan. Now, let's take a look at the linking between backup. This is how native speakers combine sounds, so 2 separate words will sound like one word, backup. We take the sound from back, the last sound, and transfer it to the next sound, up, bake up. You have to combine those sounds together, so it sounds like one word, backup plan. We should have had a backup plan. Now, what is a backup plan? A backup plan is an alternative plan that you can use if your original plan fails. Let's say you're going to present at a conference or a meeting. You bring your computer, and your presentation is on the computer. That's your original plan, Plan A. But it's always smart to have a backup plan. This could be your backup plan. You can put your presentation on a USB, a memory stick. So, if there's any issue with your computer, you have a Plan B, a backup plan. You can say, my computer wouldn't connect to their equipment, but thankfully, I had my presentation on a USB. Thankfully, I had a backup plan. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. Her comment really pissed me off. Her comment really pissed me off. Her comment really pissed me off. I said, her comment really pissed me off. Let's look at the pronunciation of pissed, because here this is an ed, a past simple verb, but the sound of that ed is a very soft T. Pissed, pissed. Now, when we say this in a sentence and there are words that come after, you almost don't hear that T, so you can't really distinguish that it's in the past simple. It's the context of the sentence that will make it obvious that it is the past. Her comment really pissed me off. Now, what does this mean, to piss someone off? This means to make someone really angry. Note that this is an informal expression, and it can also be considered impolite. It would be considered impolite if I said, Mark, you're really pissing me off. But native speakers commonly use this to complain about people. So, I could be talking to my husband or my best friend and say, Mark really pissed me off today. In that context, it's not impolite, but it would be impolite to look directly at someone and say, "You really piss me off." So don't do that. Now, we also use this in the structure to be pissed off. The pronunciation is the same, pissed off. This is simply to be really angry. For example, I was so pissed off when I came home to a completely dirty house, even though my kids promised to clean up after the party. Do you want to do another listening exercise? I'll say it 3 times. Take what she says with a grain of salt. Take what she says with a grain of salt. Take what she says with a grain of salt. I said, take what she says with a grain of salt. Here the pronunciation is clear, but if you don't know what this idiom means, then you won't understand it. The idiom is to take something with a grain of salt. We use this to say that you shouldn't believe everything someone tells you because it might not be true. Let's say your friend tells you that, "Oh, Gina says she'll help me move this weekend." But from your experience, Gina likes to make a lot of promises, but she doesn't always follow up with those promises. Then you might say, take what she says with a grain of salt. You're letting your friend know that Gina might not actually do what she says. Let's focus on the grammar here. What do you notice about this sentence? Take what she says with a grain of salt. What verb tense is this in? We're using the imperative. Take is in the imperative because the sentence begins with a base verb. There's no subject here. That's how you can identify the imperative. The imperative is used to give instructions, orders, or suggestions. So, I'm suggesting that my friend take what she says with a grain of salt. Your next listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. It's high time we let her go. It's high time we let her go. It's high time we let her go. I said, it's high time we let her go. For pronunciation, let's talk about let her go. Notice how her sounds like You don't hear the H, just But I also attach it to the word before, so I link those sounds together. Let her go. It's high time we let her go. Let's look at the expression, it's high time. When you say, it's high time that something should happen, you're saying that something should happen now and not later. And when you use this expression, you also suggest that it should have already happened. So, we should have already let her go, but we didn't. So we should do it now because it's high time we let her go. And in my opinion, it's high time that you enrolled in the Finally Fluent Academy. It's high time. You should have already done this, but maybe you haven't. So, you should do it now and not later. What is the Finally Fluent Academy? Well, this is my premium training program. We study native English speakers on TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English and add the most common expressions to your speech. We do exactly what you're doing now, but you use native speakers from TV, movies, and YouTube, so you get a variety of different accents and styles of speech. Plus, you'll have me as your teacher, and I'll be there to coach you every step of the way. So, it's high time you joined the Finally Fluent Academy, and you can look for the link in the description to learn more. Coming back to our example, it's high time you let her go. Now, to let someone go is an alternative way of saying to fire someone. When you fire someone, they permanently stop working for the company. So, when you let someone go, they permanently stop working for the company. It's high time we let her go. Remember, you're suggesting that you should have let her go a while ago, so now you better do it. Let's do one last listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. He looked a little frazzled. He looked a little frazzled. He looked a little frazzled. I said he looked a little frazzled. Let's talk about pronunciation. A little. Native speakers don't pronounce T's between 2 vowels. It will either be a very soft D, little do, or you just won't hear it. Lil, a little. Notice the A is connected to it. A little. He looked a little frazzled. Frazzled here is a past simple ed verb, but the pronunciation is a very soft D, and you almost don't hear it. Frazzled, very soft frazzled. To be frazzled or to look frazzled means you are or look very tired, but you also look very worried or anxious. So, I might look frazzled if you see me, and normally my hair is in a nice position, but you see me, and my hair is crazy. I have makeup a little bit under my eyes, maybe my shirt is a little messy as well, and visibly you can see that I might look frazzled. Obviously, I'll look very tired and maybe very worried and anxious. So, you might see it visibly in my appearance, and you can see it on my facial expression as well. If you see a coworker that looks frazzled, you might say, "Are you okay? You look a little frazzled." Amazing job improving your listening skills of fast English. Now let's improve your pronunciation. Let's do an imitation exercise. I'm going to say each sentence again, but I'm going to pause, and I want you to repeat the sentence out loud and try to follow my pronunciation exactly. Try to imitate my pronunciation. I'll say each sentence 3 times, and I want you to repeat it out loud 3 times. We should have had a backup plan. We should have had a backup plan. We should have had a backup plan. Her comment really pissed me off. Her comment really pissed me off. Her comment really pissed me off. Take what she says with a grain of salt. Take what she says with a grain of salt. Take what she says with a grain of salt. It's high time we let her go. It's high time we let her go. It's high time we let her go. He looked a little frazzled. He looked a little frazzled. He looked a little frazzled. Are you ready? All right, let's go. I'll say it 3 times. My mom nitpicks like crazy. My mom nitpicks like crazy. My mom nitpicks like crazy. Did you get this one? I said, my mom nitpicks like crazy. The pronunciation is clear, but if you don't know what the vocabulary means, you're not going to understand what that native speaker said. Here, our verb is to nitpick. To nitpick. What does this mean? This is when you find faults. Faults are things that you don't like or criticisms. When you find faults in details that are not important. I'm sure you know someone in your life who nitpicks, or maybe you nitpick yourself. Let's say you're with someone and you go out for dinner. The food is great, the restaurant is beautiful, the server is very friendly, but your friend finds faults in details that are not important. Your friend nitpicks. You could say, the dinner was amazing, But of course, Lindsay wasn't happy about the color of the plates or the art on the walls. Lindsay is a nitpicker, so your friend wasn't happy about the color of the plates. That is such a detail that is not important. This is a perfect example of someone who nitpicks. But notice in my example I said, Lindsay is a nitpicker. A nitpicker is simply someone who nitpicks. The original example was, my mom nitpicks like crazy. Here, like crazy simply means a lot or quickly, but in this context, it means a lot. So, my mom nitpicks like crazy means my mom nitpicks a lot. You could also say, I worked like crazy all weekend, meaning you worked a lot all weekend. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. It's okay to be picky sometimes. It's okay to be picky sometimes. It's okay to be picky sometimes. Did you get this one? I said, it's okay to be picky sometimes. For pronunciation, notice I use the contraction it's. This is the contraction of it is. It's okay to be. But I didn't say it's okay to be picky. I said to be, to be. So, an unstressed to. It's okay to be picky. It's okay to be picky. Now don't confuse this expression, to be picky, with our last expression, to nitpick. Yes, they both use the word pick, but they are totally different expressions. The expression, to be picky, describes someone who has very strong preferences about what they like and don't like. For example, most young kids are picky. I don't know about you, but when I was a young kid, 5 years old, 10 years old, there were many food items that I did not eat. My diet was very simple. I had a small number of things that I liked to eat, and I had a very large number of things that I did not like to eat. So, as a child, I was picky when it came to food, when it came to eating. What about you? Were you a picky eater? Were you picky about your food when you were a child? Or maybe you still are right now. Some adults are picky as well. In our original example, I said, it's okay to be picky sometimes. It's okay. That means it is acceptable. It's acceptable to be picky, to have those strong preferences about what you like and don't like, sometimes. For example, it's okay to be picky when it comes to a job. Choosing a job. You should have very strong preferences about what you want that job to have, the qualities of that job, and that's okay. Choosing a job, choosing a house, you should definitely be picky, have very strong preferences. And choosing a spouse, maybe that's the ultimate one. You should be very picky when you choose a spouse because you're with that person for your entire life. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. I'm beat. Let's call it a day. I'm beat. Let's call it a day. I'm beat. Let's call it a day. Did you get this one? I said, I'm beat. Let's call it a day. Let's talk about the contraction at the beginning. I'm. Of course, this is I am. I'm beat. I'm beat. Let's call it. But with linking, we're going to combine those sounds, so it sounds like call it, call lit, call lit. So, call lit. But then we have to say it as one word. Call it, call it, call it a day, call it a day, call it a day. I'm beat. Let's call it a day. To be beat. I'm beat. This means to be very tired, to be exhausted. So, instead of saying, I'm very tired, you can say, I'm beat. I'm beat. We're beat. Let's call it a day. To call it a day is an expression used to say that you're going to stop working for the day. You stop working because you've completed enough work, or simply because everyone is exhausted, everyone is beat, and it's not productive anymore to keep working. Maybe it's 3 o'clock, and technically the day ends at 5 o'clock, but everyone is so tired, they're just not thinking clearly anymore. So you might say, let's call it a day. Let's just stop working for today, get a good night's sleep, and come back tomorrow to begin again. You could combine this with our expression, like crazy, which means a lot. For example, you could say, we've been working like crazy all week. Let's call it a day. Again, maybe it's Friday at 2 o'clock, and technically you're supposed to work until 5, but because you've been working like crazy all week, you decide to call it a day and stop working now. Are you ready for another listening exercise? I'll say it 3 times. You shouldn't be so nosy. You shouldn't be so nosy. You shouldn't be so nosy. Did you get this one? I said. You shouldn't be so nosy. Here, notice I said shouldn't. This is the contraction of should not. You shouldn't be nosy. What does nosy mean? To be nosy means you're interested in what other people are doing or saying when you have no right to be. It doesn't involve you. For example, many people are nosy when it comes to their significant other's phone. They want to know who they're talking to or texting with. But ultimately, you have no right to that information. If you pick up your partner's phone to look without their permission, you're being nosy, and someone might say, you shouldn't be so nosy. Let's try another one. I'll say it 3 times. Being nosy is one of my pet peeves. Being nosy is one of my pet peeves. Being nosy is one of my pet peeves. Did you get this one? I said, being nosy is one of my pet peeves. You already know what nosy means, so let's focus on pet peeve. A pet peeve is something that especially annoys you. While there are many things that might annoy you, a pet peeve is that one thing that really bothers you. According to Google, the top 3 pet peeves are loud chewing. Does it bother you when someone chews loudly? Bad manners. For example, if you hold the door open for someone and they don't say, thank you, that would be considered bad manners. Clutter. Clutter describes a messy or disorganized space. What about you? What's your pet peeve? Share your pet peeve in the comments below. Now, let's do an imitation exercise. I'll say each sentence 3 times, and you'll repeat them out loud to match my pronunciation. Ready? Here we go. My mom nitpicks like crazy. It's okay to be picky sometimes. I'm beat. Let's call it a day. You shouldn't be so nosy. Being nosy is one of my pet peeves. Are you ready for the first listening exercise? I'll say it 3 times. The party got a little out of hand. The party got a little out of hand. The party got a little out of hand. I said, the party got a little out of hand. Let's talk about a little. Notice the 2 T's in the middle. Native speakers often drop them so it sounds like little or even little. We also connect the sounds so it becomes a little. The phrase out of hand means out of control. For example, you might say, my shopping has gotten a little out of hand, meaning you no longer have control over how much you're shopping. Let's try another one. I'll say it 3 times. His email really caught me off guard. His email really caught me off guard. His email really caught me off guard. I said, his email really caught me off guard. Let's break it down. His sounds like a Z because of the following vowel in email. We also link the words, so it sounds like his email. The expression caught me off guard means you were surprised, either by the fact that the email existed or by the content of the email itself. This expression is often used in the passive, so you might say, I was caught off guard by his email. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. Thanks for sticking out for me. Thanks for sticking up for me. Thanks for sticking up for me. I said, thanks for sticking up for me. Notice that the word for sounds like fur. This is because it's unstressed. Thanks for sticking up for me, for me. So, in both places in this sentence, thanks for sticking up for me, thanks for sticking up for me. What does this mean? When you stick up for someone, it means that you support or defend them, especially when they're being criticized. So, it's a positive thing to stick up for someone else. Now, I've seen you, my students, my amazing students, stick up for me in the comments section. Sometimes I'll be reviewing the comments and I'll see a negative comment like, this video was really boring, but then you, one of my awesome students, sticks up for me and you reply to that comment saying something like, no way, this video is awesome, and Jennifer's the best. I've seen this happen, and then I could reply, oh, thanks for sticking up for me, because you defended me and supported me when I was being criticized. Thanks for sticking up for me. Thanks for sticking up for me. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. It's so hard sticking to this diet. It's so hard sticking to this diet. It's so hard sticking to this diet. I said, it's so hard sticking to this diet. Notice how I use a contraction. It is so hard. It's so hard. Now, one thing native speakers do with the word so is elongate it to emphasize how hard something is, or whatever the adjective is. It's so hard. The longer we say the word, the more we believe the adjective. For example, I'm so tired. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but native speakers can be quite dramatic, and we can really hold out that so. Let's talk about what this means. Notice we have this diet. It's so hard sticking to this diet. In this case, diet is a noun, a plan that tells you what you're going to eat, what you're not going to eat, and how much of something you're going to eat. The purpose is generally to lose weight, and usually a diet is temporary. You follow it until you reach your goal, whether it's losing a certain number of pounds or reducing body fat. However, the word diet can also refer to the general food and drink someone consumes. For example, overall, I have a very healthy diet, means that, in general, the food and drink you consume regularly are healthy. But you could also say, I'm going on a diet to lose 5 pounds before my vacation. In this case, we use the expression to go on a diet, meaning to start a diet. Now let's talk about sticking to a diet. It's so hard sticking to this diet. When you stick to something, it means you continue doing that thing, even though it's difficult or challenging. That's why we say, "It's so hard sticking to this diet," meaning it's hard to continue with the diet. Let's try this one more time. I'll say it 3 times. Do you think you're gonna stick it out? Do you think you're gonna stick it out? Do you think you're gonna stick it out? I said, do you think you're gonna stick it out? Here, you commonly sounds like yeah. Do you think? Your will sound like yer. Do you think yer? Gonna is the unstressed form of going to. These are all reduced sounds. Do you think you're gonna stick it out? Let's talk about stick it out. The T in it is between 2 vowels, so we connect those sounds together and pronounce the T like a soft D. Stick it out, stick it out, stick it out. What does this mean? When you stick something out, it means you continue doing something until the end, until it's finished, until it's complete. You stick it out. Let's go back to our last example. It's so hard sticking to this diet, meaning continuing with something that is difficult or challenging. And then I ask, do you think you're going to stick it out? Do you think you're going to continue with this diet until the end? So, maybe this eating plan is designed for 90 days. If you stick it out, it means you complete the plan and follow it for 90 days. These 2 expressions are very similar. Sticking to something means you're focused on fulfilling a commitment, and when you stick it out, it simply means you complete something to the end. Now, let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice your pronunciation and try to match mine. I'll say a sentence, and then you're going to repeat it out loud 3 times. Let's start. The party got a little out of hand. His email really caught me off guard. Thanks for sticking up for me. It's so hard sticking to this diet. Do you think you're gonna stick it out? Are you ready? Let's start our first listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. You all set for the meeting tomorrow? You all set for the meeting tomorrow? You all set for the meeting tomorrow? How'd you do with that? I said, you all set for the meeting tomorrow? Let's talk about the pronunciation changes. Notice you all sounds like y'all. Y'all set, you all set. I said it quickly, but I did say the individual words. You all, y'all set. I'll also point out that in the southern U.S., it's common to say y'all for you all. The southern states, it's very common to combine you all into one word. Do you know what that is? Y'all. Y'all, I'm sure you've heard this mainly in movies or TV. Y'all ready? I personally don't say y'all because I'm not from the southern U.S., but it is extremely common in the southern U.S. For me, I simply say you all. You all. I say them quickly, but I do say both words. You all set? You all set for the meeting tomorrow? Notice here how for the meeting tomorrow, for when it's unstressed, has more of a reduced sound, a quick sound. It sounds like fur the meeting. You all set for the meeting. For the meeting tomorrow? Now, before we talk about what this sentence means, you might be wondering about the grammar. Does this sentence perhaps look grammatically incorrect to you? Is there a word missing? The auxiliary verb are is missing. Are you all set for the meeting tomorrow? We need are as an auxiliary verb because this is a question. Grammatically, you need it, but in spoken English, native speakers commonly drop auxiliary verbs when they're only required grammatically. but they're not required to understand what the sentence means. So, when a native speaker does not need to hear an auxiliary verb to understand what a sentence means, that's why in spoken English we commonly get rid of them. So, grammatically, are you all set for the meeting tomorrow? But a native speaker would commonly say, you all set? You all set for the meeting tomorrow? And then, to show it's a question, we can use a rising intonation at the end to indicate it's a question. Now, let's talk about what this means. This has a very simple meaning. To be all set is simply to be ready or to be prepared. So, it's asking the person if they're ready for the meeting tomorrow, if they're prepared for the meeting tomorrow. Native speakers commonly use this to ask if someone's ready or prepared to leave. For example, to leave a house, leave a restaurant, leave a hotel room. It doesn't matter where. And we'll just use two words with a rising intonation to show it's a question. All set? All set? I'm asking, are you ready? All set. And then you can simply reply and say, yep, and then we'll leave. Let's practice again. You all set? All set? Remember? All set? All set? Let's try another listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. This report's all over the map. This report's all over the map. This report's all over the map. I said, this report's all over the map. For pronunciation, notice here this reports as a contraction, this reports. All over. Notice how I can link those sounds together by extending the L sound to the next word because it's a vowel. All over, lover, all over. This reports all over the map. The expression to be all over the map means that something is in a disorganized or confused state. So the report is disorganized. The report is confusing. As another example, I could say, the consultant's recommendations were all over the map, which means his recommendations were disorganized or confusing. Maybe they talked about a lot of different topics, and it was difficult to follow. They were all over the map. Let's try this again, and I'll say it 3 times. Keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Keep your eyes peeled for the turn. I said, keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Notice the reduced sound for your eyes, your eyes. Keep your eyes peeled for. We talked about this before. For becomes an unstressed, reduced sound. Fur. Keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Fur the turn. Fur the turn. Notice here the sentence starts with a verb, and it starts with a base verb, which means it's in the imperative verb tense. And we use the imperative verb tense to give orders or suggestions. Keep your eyes peeled. I'm giving this as an order or a suggestion. What does that mean? To keep your eyes peeled means to watch carefully or to be on alert. So, if you're driving and following GPS directions, you need to watch carefully for specific streets so you know when to turn. That's the turn. If you're driving, keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Watch carefully. Be on alert for the turn so you don't miss it and you're not late for your important meeting. This is an expression you can use in many different situations. Let's say you're editing an important document, your resume, or something you're submitting for an assignment or to a client. You might say, keep your eyes peeled for any spelling or grammar mistakes, which means, as you're reviewing it, Pay close attention, watch carefully, and be on alert for any spelling or grammar mistakes, which is very good advice for everyone. Keep your eyes peeled. Are you ready to try this again? I'll say it 3 times. Can you just ballpark the cost for me? Can you just ballpark the cost for me? Can you just ballpark the cost for me? I said, can you just ballpark the cost for me? Can in this sentence is an auxiliary verb, so we pronounce it unstressed, and it sounds like kin. Kin you, kin you, and you can make that unstressed too and reduce it to ya. Kenya, Kenya just ballpark the cost for me? We already talked about for. It sounds like for me, for me. Let's talk about this odd word here, ballpark. Did you notice that grammatically it's a verb? It's the main verb of the sentence, to ballpark something. When you ballpark something, it means you provide a rough estimate. Yes, a ballpark is where people play baseball. But we're not talking about baseball or sports at all. To ballpark something is to provide a rough estimate. In our sentence, it's a verb, to ballpark. But we commonly use this as an adjective, a ballpark figure. So, the figure is the number, the cost, or a statistic. And if it's a ballpark figure, it means it's a rough estimate. It's not exact or precise. It's an estimate, which means it's more of a range, a lower and upper range. For example, maybe a consultant is providing you a quote or estimate on using a certain software system, and you want to know, well, how much is this going to cost my company? But the consultant can't give you an exact number at this point because he doesn't have enough information. So the consultant could say, if I had to ballpark it, I'd say $3 to $5 million, but that's just a ballpark figure. So you know it's just an estimate. Look, just give me a number. Ballpark it. Pick a guess. A ballpark figure. That's fine. A ballpark figure. Let's do this one more time, and I'll say it 3 times. Let's revisit this down the line. Let's revisit this down the line. Let's revisit this down the line. I said, let's revisit this down the line. Notice let's is a contraction for let us. Let's revisit. When you put re in front of a base verb, it means to do that verb again. Visit this again. But for pronunciation, that re is a strong sound. E. You hear that E. Revisit, revisit. Let's revisit this down the line. Notice how let's the imperative form is again. Let us. The imperative verb tense is used for orders or suggestions. Let's revisit this down the line. Let's talk about down the line. This means in the future, but at an unspecified date. It's not clear when, but you know it will happen in the future. It could be a week from now, it could be a month from now. This is a way a native speaker can postpone something if they don't actually want to do it. I'll do it down the line, because it's not specific when you'll do it. It's just some point in the future. Here's another example that could apply to you. If you don't improve your English now, it could hurt your career down the line. I'm not being specific on when your lack of English skills could hurt your career, but at some point in the future, it could be tomorrow, it could be a week from now, it could be a year from now. That's why it's so important that you're here with me, improving your English. Amazing job improving your listening skills. Now, Let's do an imitation exercise so you can improve your pronunciation and practice these pronunciation changes. I'll say the sentence, and then I want you to say the sentence out loud and try to imitate my pronunciation. I'll repeat each sentence 3 times, so let's do that now. You all set for the meeting tomorrow? You all set for the meeting tomorrow? You all set for the meeting tomorrow? This report's all over the map. This report's all over the map. This report's all over the map. Keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Keep your eyes peeled for the turn. Can you just ballpark the cost for me? Can you just ballpark the cost for me? Can you just ballpark the cost for me? Let's revisit this down the line. Let's revisit this down the line. Let's revisit this down the line. Are you ready? Here we go with the first listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. Have you edited it yet? Have you edited it yet? Have you edited it yet? Did you get this one? I said, have you edited it yet? This is extremely difficult to say. It was difficult for me to say just now. Have you edited it? Notice we have edited, edit in the past simple form. Now we have to add it, and you're going to combine that sound with edited. So we already have edid. Now we're going to add it to it. Have you edited it yet? That is extremely difficult, even for me to say. I would say this is a tongue twister, and most likely I wouldn't even use it. I would change it to the noun to avoid this very difficult pronunciation. Have you edited the report yet? Have you edited the document yet? Now let's talk about the grammar. What do you notice about this? Well, first of all, it's in question form. And what verb tense is this? It's the present perfect. Have you edited? So we have or has conjugated with the subject, have you, and then the past participle, edited. Then we have yet, because yet is commonly used in question form with the present perfect. Yet is also used in negative form with the present perfect. To answer this negatively, I could say, I haven't edited it yet. I haven't edited it yet. Remember that we use already with the present perfect for affirmative statements. Yes, I've already edited it. Edited it together on my Mac. I took that video, edited it, and I'm glad I don't have to say that anymore because it was very difficult, even for me. Let's try this again. Here's your listening exercise. Does she have what it takes to move up? Does she have what it takes to move up? Does she have what it takes to move up? I said, does she have what it takes to move up? Let's talk about does she. Does is an auxiliary verb, so we can pronounce it very quickly in an unstressed way. Does. Now she begins with a sh, so we're going to combine those 2 sounds together. Does she? Does she? We can combine what it into what it. Notice I have a soft D because we have a T between 2 vowels, which we pronounce as a soft D sound. What it. Does she have what it takes to move up? Let's talk about what this means. The expression to have what it takes means that you have the skills or characteristics necessary to become successful. Right now, I hope you're thinking, Jennifer, I have what it takes to become fluent. which means you have the skills or qualities to become successful in that particular area. So right now, you might be thinking, well, I don't have the fluency skills, but do you have the qualities required? Patience, consistency, motivation, and dedication. These are the qualities necessary to be successful when learning a language. So, you don't need the skills. You need the qualities in order to say, yes, Jennifer, I have what it takes to become fluent. Put that in the comments because I know you have what it takes. Now let's talk about to move up. In a business context, when you move up, it means you get a more important position within your company. Basically, you get a promotion, which is a very good thing. It's amazing that you're here right now doing this because improving your communication skills will help you move up a lot faster. It will help you advance in your career and get a promotion a lot faster. Do you have what it takes? Because I have what it takes. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. I'm finally all caught up. I'm finally all caught up. I'm finally all caught up. I said, I'm finally all caught up. Of course, caught sounds like ought now because up is a vowel. So now we have caught up. We have a T between 2 vowels again, so I'll pronounce it as a soft D, but I have to combine the sounds together. Caught up, caught up, caught up. I'm finally all caught up. Let's talk about what this means. The expression to be caught up means that you've finished all the tasks you were previously assigned. Maybe you had some tasks you were supposed to do last week but didn't have time, and now today you had time, so you completed those tasks. You can then say, I'm finally all caught up. Notice in my example I said, all caught up. Here, all simply means 100% or entirely. It's unnecessary to include it, but native speakers really like to include this word, and we use it quite frequently. So, you could say, I'm caught up, or I'm all caught up. They have the exact same meaning, but a native speaker will likely add all. Here's another example using this expression. I'm all caught up on my emails. Here, notice I mentioned the specific task, on my emails. So that means I either read the emails I was supposed to read last week or even yesterday or earlier today, or maybe I responded to the emails as well. I'm all caught up on my emails. All caught up. Okay, we're all caught up. Are you all caught up? Do you want to try another listening exercise? I'll say it 3 times. Do you have a sec to bring them up to speed? Do you have a sec to bring them up to speed? Do you have a sec to bring them up to speed? I said, do you have a sec to bring them up to speed? Let's talk about do you have a... I can combine do you and say, do you have a... Notice the sound in there. Sec. Do you have a sec to bring them? I can reduce the them by getting rid of the th, and I'm left with m, and I have to add it to the word before, bring 'em up to speed. Here, sec is the short form of the word second. This is very commonly used as a question. Do you have a sec? I'm asking you for a short amount of time. Do you have a second? This is commonly used before you ask for help or before you want to start a discussion. Do you have a second? Can you review this document? Do you have a second? Can we discuss the conference? Let's talk about to bring someone up to speed. Up to speed is an expression used when you share the latest or most recent news and information on a specific topic. Let's say you were on vacation for 1 week, and during that week you weren't checking your emails or talking to anyone at work, so you don't have the latest information or news. When you get back, you might say, "I was on vacation for a week. Can you bring me up to speed on the conference?" So you can specify something specific. The conference. The person knows to share information or news related to the conference within the last week, because that's the information or news that you don't have. Dr. Cox, do you have a sec? Hey Jack, do you have a sec? Do you have a sec to talk about my piece? Let's try this one more time. I'll say it 3 times. Are you going out tonight? Are you going out tonight? Are you going out tonight? This was an easy one, right? Are you going out tonight? The pronunciation is quite clear. Notice how we can combine out tonight together. When I say out, I'm not going to pronounce that T. Out. The T is just silent. But tonight starts with a T, so I can use that T from tonight for both words if I say them together. Out tonight, out tonight, out tonight. So, you can combine those together. Are you going out tonight? I included this easy example because this is a very common expression that native speakers use. Perhaps you don't know what it means, or you don't feel confident using it yourself. To go out. That's the expression. To go out. This is when you do a social activity outside of your home. So, you leave your home to do something social, something fun. Perhaps it's to have a nice dinner with your significant other, your family, or friends. Or it's to go to a movie. Are you going out? Are you going out tonight? Notice that this is in the present continuous because it's asking about a plan in progress. Are you going out tonight? But the expression is to go out, so your verb is go. If it were last night, you would say, "Oh, I went out last night." Now, this isn't clear what you did, so someone would have to ask you, "Oh, what did you do?" And then you could tell them, "Oh, I went to the movies. Want to go out tonight? Are we going out tonight? Do you want to go out tonight?" Now, let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice this fast pronunciation. I'm going to say each sentence again, and I'll give you time to say the sentence out loud. Then, I'll repeat each sentence 3 times. Have you edited it yet? Have you edited it yet? Have you edited it yet? Does she have what it takes to move up? Does she have what it takes to move up? Does she have what it takes to move up? I'm finally all caught up. I'm finally all caught up. I'm finally all caught up. Do you have a sec to bring them up to speed? Do you have a sec to bring them up to speed? Do you have a sec to bring them up to speed? Are you going out tonight? Are you going out tonight? Are you going out tonight? Amazing job with this. Now, to be honest, I really regret using edited it as one of my examples because it was extremely difficult for me to say. So, I'm sure it was extremely difficult for you to say as well. I'm going to say that's a tongue twister, and it's very difficult. Remember, have you edited? You need edited. 3 sounds. Have you edited it yet? Have you edited it yet? Have you edited it yet? Put that in the comments. Have you edited it yet? Put that in the comments. Now I'm feeling more comfortable with that, so you can practice that as well. You can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. I recommend watching this lesson next because you'll learn a lot of vocabulary that will also help you understand native speakers. So make sure you watch this lesson right now.